Salvete discipuli. Today's lesson is from Chapter 10 in Latin for the New Millennium, and it's on a subset of the third conjugation verbs known as third IOs. Third IOs are interesting, and the reason why we're learning them separately than, say, the regular third conjugation verbs or the fourth conjugation verbs, to which they'll also be somewhat similar, is because they are a blend of both, and they're their own monster. Um, they are third conjugation verbs, and you can always tell that from the second principal part. Like all third conjugation verbs, the second principal part ends in ere with no macron. The difference, and you might have guessed this from the name of the verbs, is that for the first principal part ends in an io instead of just an o. So ago, regular third conjugation, ends in o, as opposed to, say, the paradigm verb we're going to use for this, capiō, which has that io. It does form very similarly to the third conjugation, but it mostly retains its I in its conjugated forms like the fourth conjugation. Now, the important word there is mostly retains its I, because there are going to be some forms in which, and actually one notable form that you're going to learn today, where it is not going to retain the I and not going to look like a fourth conjugation verb. One way in which, or a couple of ways in which it's behaves like a third conjugation verb, like you already know, is how it forms its present stem. You remove the entire ere from the second principal part to get the present stem, just like you do for all third conjugation verbs, which means you have to provide a vowel in order to form the present active and present passive indicative, because the present stem does not end in one. The present active infinitive, like all verbs, is the second principal part. And it's going to form its present passive infinitive the same way all third conjugations do, which is that you take its present stem and you simply add a long I. Okay. In this slide, I show you the process of how to form a third IO in the present active indicative and the present active infinitive. As always, the first person singular present active indicative right here is the first principal part. After that, you need the present stem. You have to produce the vowel I and then the personal endings. Okay, so second person singular is present stem plus I plus S. Third, present stem plus I plus T. In the plural, first person is present stem plus I plus mus. Second person plural, present stem plus I plus tis. And the third person plural is going to be the present stem plus IU, just like for fourth conjugation verbs, right? There's going to be an IU. And that's one of the ways in which the third IO retains its I, right? It's not just unt, it's got to be eunt, okay? The present active infinitive, as always, is the second principal part. Now, as we move on to the passives, as always, the first person singular present passive indicative is the first principal part plus the R. And you will notice that the third IOs form its second person singular present passive indicative the same way that a third conjugation forms it, meaning that it's an E instead of an I. So this is that important form in which the third IO will not retain its I. And kind of furthermore, it will not look like a fourth conjugation verb. It looks like a third conjugation verb. Third person singular is going to be the present stem plus I plus ter. First person plural, present stem plus I plus MUR. Second person plural, present stem plus I plus mini. And then third person plural is present stem plus IU plus NTUR. So again, a way in which it looks like the fourth conjugation. So right here in the passive, actually, you can see how third IO verbs are sort of a blend of what a regular third conjugation verb would look like with the second person singular, and what a fourth conjugation verb would look like. The present passive infinitive forms the same way as all third conjugation verbs, meaning that it's the present stem plus I, or the second principal part without the ERE, but plus an I. So, as always, we have a paradigm, an example verb. This one is capiō, capere, cēpī, captum. And when you remove the ERE from the second principal part to get your present stem, it is cop. Okay? Um, I take you through the conjugation and the present active, indicative, present active infinitive, and the present passive infinitive and present indicative and present passive infinitive. Um, capiō, capis, capit, capimus, capitis, capiant. Okay. So I take, you take, he, she, it takes, we take, y'all take, they take. And then the second principal part, to take, is our present active infinitive. In the passive, we have, for the first person singular, we have the first principal part plus the R, right? Capiōr, I am taken. Caperis, with that ERIS, you are taken. Capiter, he is taken, she is taken, it is taken. Capimor, we are taken. Capimini, y'all are taken. And capiuntur, they are taken. And again, the present passive infinitive is the present stem, cop, plus the long I, so cēpī, to be taken. And that's actually going to look just like you would expect it to look as a third conjugation verb. Okay, so make sure that you've taken nice, thorough notes on this. Okay, I will check them in class, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. Walete.